Here we have verse 25 of the 9th chapter of the Gospel of John, reaching something of the culminating moment of the conversation between the religious leaders and the man who was born blind and had been healed by Jesus. And of course the leaders on the horns of a dilemma here as to how exactly to construe this, because they know that Jesus, in a sense, violated their understanding of the Sabbath, and yet at the same time he performed a miracle that they cannot otherwise explain. And so they're trying to get this blind man who now sees to crack under pressure, trying to get him to somehow confess something that will basically indicate that Jesus is not really the source of this, give glory to God, leave Jesus out of it, that sort of thing, And so he continues in responding to this after they've made that assertion to him with this remarkable statement, very well-known, famous statement, which really captures and culminates the confession of this man, in which he says, apokrithe, from apokrinomai, deponent verb, I answer. If there's an object, it'll take the dative case. In this case, it is the aorist active indicative, deponent in form. So it's third person singular, aorist active indicative, apokrithe, he answered, postpositive, un, ekenos, demonstrative pronoun, means that, masculine, singular, nominative, so that man impliedly answered, therefore, A. Usually means if. In a construction such as this, it can also mean something like whether, which is what he's saying in response to the statement from the leaders. Whether, hamartolos, this is the word for sinner. Hamartia is, of course, the noun form of the word sin. This would be a person who is a sinner, masculine, singular, nominative. If a sinner, estin, he is, or it is. This is the third person singular, present active indicative of me. Of course, we notice that the accent here is acute, because the acute does not change to a grav before an enclitic, which is what estin is. So if a sinner, he is, uk oida. Whether a sinner or not, uk oida, the negation with the first person singular perfect active indicative of ado, I see or I know. Here he confesses he doesn't know. You say he's a sinner, beats me. The man kind of begs off on the question of what the moral status of this one is, but there's one thing he does know, and that's, of course, what he says here, hin. This is the word for one. It's the neuter of it. So one, we would imply in it one thing. Oida, same word that we had right here. One thing I know. This is the perfect, so it means I have known it and continues to know it. That, hoti, conjunction, tuflos, present, the masculine singular of tuflos, a blind man. Once, blind man, own. This is the present active participle, masculine singular nominative. So one thing I know, that being a blind man, RT, indeclinable adverb, now blepo, I see, first person singular, present active indicative of that word to see. So though being a blind man, now I see. This, of course, has been one of the great statements in the Bible that captures really the heart of the certainty that comes by means of the gift of faith, that even though people with multiple PhDs might try to talk a simple believer out of their faith, they can say with this blind man, once I was blind, now I see, and no amount of arguments to the contrary is going to dissuade a person from from that which is evidently right there before them as a matter of their sight through the eyes of faith, just as this man had sight through the miraculous intervention of Christ into his life.